All right, looks like we're all connected here. Had a little of the same adventures from yesterday. That's always kind of fun when your tool doesn't want to work the way that you expect it to. All right, not fake Amir, how's it going? We are hanging out. We got some water here, and I've only got about an hour and a half before I got to go somewhere. A little bit of a family party tonight, so we do this pretty regularly, try to get together with the family. I'm going to show you guys the tool that we built yesterday. And we got some of the stuff working where this... Oh, where'd it go? Hold on. Back over here. Put this up here. There we go. All right, let me pull up that Wazoo tool again. So we got this thing working, and I got it down in dark mode, and we got at least one node connected to it. So once we got the one node connected to it, now we're that much closer to getting the whole environment stood up. Here's the problem in the environment, though. If you guys aren't super familiar with kind of how this tool works, let's talk about, we've got to now put it in an environment that it's not natively designed to work in. So let's go pull up our Excalidraw real quick. And let's close out. Let's just get everything out of here. Reset the canvas. I hope that doesn't go white. Oh, good. Okay. All right. So what we need to do now is we've got these individual nodes, right? And for any one node in our environment like this, let's call it like Rocky 1. Make this a little smaller. They are stateless. And you say, what's a stateless node? Well, what a stateless node means is that when it goes down, it's going to come back up every time with a brand new original config. So what we need to do is we need to get them to register an agent, but that agent needs to be unique to each node, right? And it also has to, so look, we got to be, so agent is going to be unique to each node. We need it persistent. But here's the thing, and this is where the problem is, right? So sometimes we gotta pull up, like kind of address what our problem is in our environment. If that's what's gonna happen, we've got to think about the environment that we're in real quick, right? Like, so we're engineers, we're doing engineer stuff. And over here, we're on a werewolf cluster where all the nodes, if I just do, all the nodes are running Rocky Linux. So think about this real quick. The agent that gets put on has to be customized to each node. Okay, so I could put the agent on the Rocky Linux. But then when it comes up, it's going to be vanilla. It's not going to be configured to each node. So then you say, okay, well, instead, what if we did it on each node and just installed it? Well, the problem with that would be when it goes down and comes back up, it'll be gone again. So what I think I'm going to do with this is this. This is going to be kind of my way of fixing this problem, I think. So I'm going to copy this Wazoo agent, because I want to use the same version every time, over into opt. And then if I do a SSH to like Rocky 1, I'll see that df-h on opt, it's mounted remotely from that other box. And if I ls opt, I should now see that Wazoo agent, right? Okay, good. So if I have that there, and if I can then use that tool, if I could use that agent there, I can now install this on the nodes as the node comes up, and hopefully do it in a, I guess, a more clean fashion. So let's come over here. Let's see if we can't get this to work real quick. So we're building in functionality to our lab, and we are causing our system, so we don't have to do this curl part anymore because we already have it. We just need this part right here, right? So let's drop that in. And we're going to need to fix some things on this. So Wazoo Manager can be that. That's fine. The agent group can be default, or we could call it, cluster node. We could call it whatever we want. But now the agent name needs to be something else. Our agent name needs to be $, host name. Let's do double quotes around that. And let's do double quotes right there. And one other thing real quick, let's put just a pound sign on the front of this as well, just so that we can have that. And let's do, it'll just be in our command history now. Check this out real quick. Let's do real quick echo $ host name. No, see, that's empty, so that's a problem. What would know our host name on the box? Host name knows our host name, so we could do it like this instead. We could do, oops. That'll work. And yeah, that's fine. Did I have a pound sign there? Oh man, you guys gotta stop me sometimes. All right, good. So that'll work. That'll put the host name in for each of the nodes, and then what we want to do is we want to test this. Deaden, how's it going? Yeah, I'm not working too hard today. It's Friday afternoon, right? We just kind of hang out. I'm continuing some of the lab stuff that we did from last night, building out this tool. And these were the notes from last night. By the way, if anybody's like, hey, how can I get my hands on the notes? Well, you just come into the system here and you drop up into our meeting notes, and I dropped all the notes in here. So anybody that watched me do the build out yesterday and saw me figure out some of the things that weren't correct from the installer and some of those other problems, this is the full install right here. This is like my raw notes before I would clean it up and make it like presentable. I always tell you guys there's like 3 layers of notes for me. There's the raw system notes, there's my kind of quick and dirty notes where I'm pulling stuff out, and then there's the final kind of set of notes where I pretty it up and turn it into like a doc that can be shared. This is not quite at a doc that I would share yet, except I shared it with you guys because, we're just hanging out. Less Than T, how's it going? Anybody over on YouTube? Hey, we're just kind of working hard. Yeah, Dead, and we're just kind of building this cluster system out and kind of working through things. So we're not working super hard on anything, but I do want to get, I'm going to build this little installer piece in here where the system will properly start up and install the agent and do and register back. So while we do this real quick, let's go pull up the agent. By the way, I turned the agent to dark mode today, or this is the server rather, the dashboard and the server. I put this to dark mode earlier, so I think that's probably a little nicer than the other way. And let's go look real quick at we should have our inventory. Let's see if we can see our summary. Oh, that's going to go back to white mode apparently. Oh, apparently it's going to make me log back in too. And by the way, it went back to the old password, even though I'm quite sure I changed that password. It still went back to this old password, which I told you, I don't really mind sharing it because we're going to change it, but it did get itself changed. All right, so we're going to let that come up. I should stay in dark mode now. And then let's go look at our agent summary, and here's our agent by status. There's one active agent. It's by its OS here, and then here's the information about it. Good. So we're going to go grab all of our nodes here in a second. We'll get this one going, and then I want to see the behavior when we keep doing the next part of the install. Hey, Linux developer, how's it going? We're just kind of cleaning up the lab environment here and kind of hanging out. Again, we don't work too hard on Fridays because it's the end of the work week. I've got a family party to go to in a little bit where I was promised pizza and wings, so that makes me pretty happy. But I've got the wife's got about an hour till she gets off work. So she'll probably be here in about an hour 20, a little more than that. And then we're going to head over there. So I've got a little bit of time to burn. So I figured I'd just kind of hang out with you guys, see if anybody wants to talk about stuff and, do our normal Linux stuff. I will post the Discord information over here. And then, I'll take the blame for that, making people want pizza. And then I'll drop it over here. YouTube, over on the YouTube side of things, how's it going? That's an actual username, by the way. So, if you guys have questions, let me know, but we're kind of building out the next part of this. So what I want to do is I want to hit this. let's run it. Oh, well, I mean, it would help if I put it in opt, right? It's in opt. So that's where I want to run it from. All right, so we're going to download. We don't even actually download it. We already have the opt directory mounted, so we're just going to be pulling it. And we're going to do this next part of kind of our install. Now, what I would expect to see is this will come up, and then over here, the agent will automatically get registered as Rocky1, and it'll be the next agent on the Werewolf system. Wait, is YouTube itself in your YouTube stream? Linux developer. I mean, I have YouTube running right now. Yeah. Can you guys not see it? I think the YouTube guys. Wait, is YouTube itself? I think that's just a user that happened to get the name at YouTube. I don't know how he did it, but installed this at work last month, still figuring out how to use it. Yeah, YouTube. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm in a very unique problem here, which I was drawn up here, where for one of these Rocky boxes, they're stateless. So the question would be, you know, if we install it like we're about to, like we're installing it right here to the node, right? So what's going to happen is that's going to get wiped. So the install is going to get axed every time the system comes back up, right? I mean, I think that should make sense for you guys. Do we got a full white? You might say, why is that white? Well, because we're inverting colors, right? So that install is going to get whacked. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make sure that the install works. And I can't put it back on the container because the container feeds all, you know, Rocky 1 through 19. So the container, if you put on the container, it's going to be too vanilla, if you will. It's not going to be customized to each node. So we have to find a happy medium. So what we're going to do first is we're doing the first part of this as engineers. We're testing the install. Can I get it to run on my containerized node? That's the first part. We got to see what this behavior is. Now there's something else that's going to come up here in a second. I'm going to turn this node off, and then I'm going to bring it back up. So once this is done right here, right? This is my agent. This is my run, my install for it. Go put it on here, over here, and say, so agents to stateless nodes. And I'm just going to drop this right here, right? And we're going to test the behavior here in a second. And you say, well, Scott, what behavior are you going to test? This is the behavior, because we don't know, when we don't know how a system works, we can sit and pour through the documentation, right? Pouring over the documentation. Anyway, I'll take it. I'll take my closed captioning being wrong. So we're going to pour over the documentation, right? Or what we could do, which would be equally as good, is just go test it. So there's an old saying in engineering, one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. I'm not going to go read the documentations. I'm not going to guess how this is going to work. I'm going to test the behavior here in a second. And you say, what are you going to test? Well, watch this real quick. What we need to know about this is when we get this node connected, which it should register itself in the next 5 minutes or so, it's going to get ID 002, I'm pretty sure, right? Makes sense. That's the next ID. Then we're going to blow the node away, bring it back up, and we're going to use that same exact command to configure it again. The question will be, is it going to exactly register as 002? Is it going to start doing updates as itself again? Or is it going to get registered as a new node? And that's very important to us. And you say, well, why is that? Well, because we need to make sure, because these nodes are going to be going down and coming back up, we need to make sure that there's not some other variable in there. There's not some other key that's generated on the install or some other thing that gets into there to make it do the ID. Because if there is, we need to go set that for each of our nodes as well. Right? Does that make sense? If we generate it the first time, we need to keep going from there. Ewo on site said, what is your opinion on recommending Kick Secure CLI? I've never used it. Kick Secure CLI is a server OS for people that may not be like us and don't have enough knowledge to harden servers yet. I would say here would be my thoughts on it, Ewo. I would tell people learn the basics of Linux, learn the basics of Linux sysadmin so you can get a role. Nobody's going to expect anybody to harden anything up front. That's not really. You don't come in the industry and immediately start hardening boxes typically. So what I would tell you is just try to. I tell people stay away from like aberrant type things, like things that aren't going to be used in the industry are going to be a lot less useful to you in the long run. If that makes sense. Like right now, like Nix OS is not quite there yet. So I tell people Nix is fine to play with. That NIX OS, that's fine to play with. But I wouldn't like, I don't know, I wouldn't like do anything besides lab work with it right now, if that kind of makes sense. Maybe do some proof of concepts with it. Maybe test it down in your dev environment at a company. But I wouldn't like spend a lot of time learning all the proclivities of that just yet. Not until some companies, not until some companies start kind of adopting it and start using it. Right now, I would kind of hold on, if that makes sense. Like I tell people, you got to put your emphasis on what's the most important thing. And like if you want to be a Linux engineer, the very first thing that you should start to learn is like command line Linux. And once you feel pretty good about command line Linux, I would start to figure out how we run Linux in the enterprise, which is like what our Linux sysadmin course was. Most of you guys that finished that course, there were some of you guys that finished that, and I would say like maybe like 8 or 9 people finished that, and you probably found out that was not nearly as technical a course as it could have been. I could have spent a lot more time digging us into doing commands and, rigidly doing 500 commands a week or something. I didn't do that to you guys. I made you guys learn how the business was going to interact with you, because that's really where a company wants you to be. You need to be a person who can build servers and keep servers up, right? Build servers less as an admin, but as an engineer, you're going to build a lot of servers, right? Anyways, how's it going? Uragon over on the YouTube side. We're not working too hard on a Friday. Fisherman's here. He got his bachelor's degree in Nix OS. Oh, Fisherman, you should check the Discord. We got an architect that used to work with me and my brother John joined the server, so he's in our engineers chat. So you can go check that out. I'm sure you're gonna love that. So, anyways, all right. Crash System reason you usually deploy with Ubuntu, Red Hat, or SUSE because there's viable. Yeah, there's more. There's just a lot more. You're going to find a bigger footprint of Ubuntu and Red Hat and SUSE. And I wouldn't even have told you Ubuntu 4 years ago. Some of you guys know I would not have told you that 4 years ago, but it got allowed into government systems because it's being supported by Canonical, right? So you have somebody you can get a support contract with. If you can't get a support contract with it, we're not even talking about it in a government sense. In an enterprise sense, some companies will have a risk appetite for it, but sometimes you'll start to build something and your security engineering team, that you'll have a meeting with them, say, hey, we did this proof of concept, this is ready to go. And they'll say, what OS is this? And you're like, oh yeah, it's Nix OS. And they're like, that sounds cool and that looks good, but we don't have any support for it. We can't move that to production. And that's a security posture of your organization that you need to understand before you go spend a lot of time doing this stuff. Oh, Phoenix, I think, man, it's the same thing, Phoenix. I watch this stuff happen online. Like somebody will have a piece of tape hanging off the side of their rifle, and they'll be doing like a shooting video, right? And everybody and their brother will become an expert in whether or not that piece of tape hanging off the side of their rifle mattered to their shooting. And it's like, maybe it did matter, but only at such a level where like 99.5% of other things mattered more. And you were focusing on what we call bike shedding. You were focusing on this thing over here that didn't fucking matter. You have to get your stance right. You have to get your position, your trigger squeeze, your target sight alignment, those kind of things. Those are all 25% of the system, and you're over here like fiddling around with 2% of things. Same thing I tell people with Linux. Like people want to come on and be like, oh, you're not doing this or you're not doing that, and it's like, but the command line is the most important part of all this stuff. Yeah, back to 90. Yeah. None of that stuff matters until you're all the way up. Yeah. I always have my stance correct when I PS pipe grep process. Yeah. Well, and Fisherman, here's the thing. I'll have people tell me, like, I'll do PS grep on here, and then I'll do some stuff, and people will be like, I could have done that in 2. And I'll be like, well, oh, good. You saved yourself literally half a second. But could you do it? The question is, could you do it when it mattered? Could you be the person that somebody thought was ready to do that? That's, I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter if you're the smartest guy in the room. It matters if you're the person that can build stuff and get a company to trust you. Yeah, proper sight picture, breathing, trigger squeeze, all those, the four fundamentals. I used to work with this when I first started. I think I told some of you guys, I started pulling targets when I was 11 years old. I worked at a shooting range when I was a kid. Pulling targets is put the target up and down while you're behind a berm out to 1,000 yards, right? And we worked with this family, the Tompkins, and Mid Tompkins was such a good shot that we used to joke around about how he had a fifth fundamental of marksmanship. And you say, well, why do you joke around about that? Well, because his wife was just as good a shot as him, and she still shoots. You can go find her long-range book on Amazon for about $200 because I don't think it's in publication anymore, so it's really hard to get your hands on. And then their two daughters, and they traveled all over the world in the 90s and early 2000s, beating all the best sniper teams on planet Earth, right? So we used to joke around about how he had this fifth fundamental of marksmanship. And you say, well, how good was the guy? Well, so I don't know if any of you guys have ever shot, but there's these little things called spindles, and they look like this. And they're white on one side and black on the other, and you put them in the target. And at 1,000 yards, more than 6 times, I have seen him blow up the spindle. So the spindle is a little plastic piece that's the size of the bullet. I've seen him put the round through the same hole at 1,000 yards more than 6 times in my life. So anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. But let's see if this node, which is now up, has registered itself. That's what we were waiting for. Hold on. He is not registered yet, so let's see. Is the process doesn't seem to be running. Let's see if it exists. Doesn't appear to exist, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Let's do a daemon reload. Let's go look to see if... No, it still doesn't exist, huh? So where... It says it's there. RPMQ... Oh, no, Wazoo. Let's go see... The agent built an agent service file. So there is a service file right here, right? Let's go look at it. So the service file exists. We've done a daemon reload for systemctl. The service should be there. We don't see it though. It's interesting. Enable now would be good, but it doesn't see. Here's the thing: it doesn't see, even with a daemon reload, it doesn't see that as part of the system. So we should be able to grep this and see it. We should see the Wazoo agent right here. Oh, it says it's there. All right, let's try it. We can do an enable -- now if we want, or we can do an enable and whatever separate if we wanted to. Hold on. Let's see. Created the symlink, but it can't start it. Or group Wazoo was given. So when we did the, let's go look here. Got the Wazoo manager, Wazoo agent, and the Wazoo agent name, and then we did our install. But this thing said that it couldn't start. WW client's fine. We don't care about that. But there's an invalid user or group. Wazoo was given. Oh, hold on. Oh. Let's do this. Yeah, that makes sense. So, this makes sense, a lot of sense. Watch, if we go here to his cat. Where's it at? I'll just find it right here. I'm being lazy. Cat that real quick. It wants to use, oh, no, it doesn't want to use, why does it want to use a different user? Exit. Okay, so see how we have a user and a group on the primary werewolf node? We need to do wwctl configure all, and this is going to go push everything for the cluster, and then SSH back to, was that Rocky 1? Oh, Rocky. Let's press that, and then ID. Right, there's no user. So, this is the problem with clustered nodes. They're getting we could do their user management stuff. Like, we can just force users onto nodes. That's not the way you want to do it in a clustered environment. You want to do it over here. So, overlay build. We're going to rebuild all their overlays. Then, and we could have done just Rocky, but we're going to reload over all their overlays. Then we're going to sit here and we're going to watch on this one for the next time that the Rocky 1 overlay builds. So the overlay will build, but then it's going to get pulled by its agent. So we could also force it, but let's just tail-f on var log werewolf grep-i for Rocky 1 and oops, werewolf.d dot log. There we go. All right, so he just ran. Well, he just ran. Nope, hasn't run yet. All right, so we're gonna get all the other ones, but that's fine. We're not gonna put space between. Yeah, and Baraga's right. Baraga's one of my mods too, by the way. He's also my brother, but I have 4 brothers in case anybody was wondering. Sometimes I'm talking about mostly 2 of them, unless I'm talking about the army one. Or unless I'm talking about the one that moved away. Yeah, the army one is the one that's still in the army. 4 of us went in the army. Only one of us is still in the army, though. Not quite Rocky 1 yet. We're going to wait. We're going to let it run until Rocky 1 gets its config. Then we're going to go over to Rocky 1. It should be within a few more minutes or so. Once Rocky 1 gets its config, then we'll go over and we'll check and make sure that. I'm brother 2. Brother 1 is an Irish twin. Does anybody here know what an Irish twin is? It's actually kind of a funny concept. And I'm Irish, so I can say that. Nobody else can say that. Yeah, Uragon. He was that guy, Mitch Tompkins. You can go look him up. And then his wife, Nancy Tompkins, is still alive, and she is still a competitive shooter, and she has a book on it. Actually, I think she's got 3 books on it, but. Yeah, so, well, it means that you and your brother or sister are born within a year of each other. Yeah, so me and my older brother are 355 days apart, which is kind of funny. So, like, he's a little bit smaller than me, even as an adult, so, like, we were always the same size growing up, even though he was my older brother. All right, so let's go back to Rocky 1, and let's ID Wazoo, which I now expect to be there. And then now let's try to start this service. We could just, instead of that, now that it's enabled, we can start and see if it starts now. And if it starts, which we hope it does, then we should be able to check its status. I could just, yeah. All right, so it's going, right? It's got all the things on it and it's running. And hopefully within a few minutes over here, and let's go see what we didn't do last night, because it was late when we got to this part. Let's see if this thing has its own little, where would it be? It would probably be in var osec logs. I'm curious what this thing's log looks like. Like what's this thing doing? Okay, so we see that it started up. It's found that it's a Rocky 9 box. That's cool. What's this other log over here? Active responses log. Is this thing doing anything, or are we just kind of keeping an eye on the agents or whatever? To quote a friend, we did not know this was even possible. That's funny. Two births in the same year. Yeah, yeah. Speaking of that, Phoenix, there's kind of like a what is that? So I remember when I was doing my first master's in business administration, they were always constantly droning on about this thing called a paradigm shift. And I thought it was always interesting. It's kind of a good concept to tell engineers about. But it's one of the reasons that a lot of times when there's like big breakthroughs in industries, it's by people that are outside of that industry. So what do you mean by that? Well, like the guy who was like trying to build, there was a guy, I want to say in like the 80s or early 90s, I think it was 80s. He was building he was trying to build a propulsion system to better deliver like rocket fuel. And he ended up building what's that thing called? The Super Soaker. You guys ever seen the Super Soaker there where you could like spray water across the room and like soak your buddies and stuff? That guy was like a rocket engineer and he was trying to do this thing. Well, where I'm going with that is like a lot of times things will come into an industry. And so like I don't tell new engineers they can't do something a certain way. I'll show them the way that we do it and stuff, but like I don't say like, oh no, that's stupid, don't go do it that way, because some people might figure something out and it ends up becoming the standard in kind of how things work for an industry. So, paradigm shifts very rarely come from people like, if you ever look at like the auto industry, like, hey, we're just building cars and all the cars have the same gas mileage. And then, 1 year we pop the gas mileage up, 1 or 2 gas, miles per gallon than all the years before. And it's like, it's because all the engineers think the same and they're doing all the same thing. They've been pressed into the same mold, right? Then somebody comes from outside and builds a different type of car and it does a whole different type, this is my point in that is saying like, I don't know where I was going with that, except it's just we didn't even know this was possible. That's like a kind of way that people, I remember there was a guy who wrote Schlock Mercenary. I loved it. Howard Taylor. I started reading his stuff in like June of 2000. So he had Schlock Mercenary for a long time. Anyways, really great series if you ever want to go read it. But anyways, where I'm going with that, he had this saying where it was, scientific advancements aren't going to be Eureka shouting and running through the streets. It's going to be more like, that's interesting. It's going to be like just something. You've been learning Clojure for that reason, to learn things from different angles. Yeah. I tell people that's one of the things about like being a teacher. One of the things that like being a college professor isn't just for the nickel they flip at me every 2 weeks, which is like barely, like seriously, I tell people if you knew what I made as a teacher and you knew what I made as an engineer, you would be like, Scott, why do you even roll out of bed to be a teacher? And I go, well, it's online, so I don't even do that. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is like, where I'm going with that is I learn things like, because you get like, not to play with the joke too much, but you get like old eyes as an engineer. Like I look at the same thing, I do it the same way, it always works. But new people come in with these different ideas and these different ways of looking at it. So I almost want to say like I keep myself sharp by hanging out with the youngins. I like show up and I got the skateboard and I'm like, how's it going, fellow young people? Are we doing some Linux in here? No, that's not true. But anyways, I like to think phrasing is helpful. No, do it this way, phrase it more like this, how we normally. Yeah, I show people how we do things, right? Like what the standard is. If they can achieve that standard by some other method, I'm not going to like shit on any idea or anything like that, even though I'm kind of like the lead most of the time. All right, so let's see over here. This is obviously not auto refreshing, so let's refresh it. Let's see if it's sending info over. We see that it's running. The collector's running. Ah, now we got a second agent. Okay. So we got Rocky 1. He's got the right IP. When we reboot this node, I want you guys to know this. When we reboot this node, he is going to lose his configuration. We know that, right? We drew it up here. It's part of our plan. Oops, no, wrong plan. It's a different plan. We drew it up here. We know that Rocky is a stateless node. We know this install we just did on it is not going to stay. What I care about is does the system here, this Wazoo system, does Wazoo, when we reinstall, does it stay the same 001 node? That's what I'm about to find out. All right. So, Mr. Couture, you can ask your question. All right, reboot. Reboot. Let him reboot. And then we're going to watch him reboot because some of you guys haven't seen it before. The way Rocky works, the way a werewolf cluster works. I know it's a little bright. It'll turn black here in a second. Werewolf sits as a node on the cluster that controls DHCP, it controls TFTP, and it basically controls its whole environment. When a node comes up and asks, who am I? Right? It's not being philosophical. It's saying at the MAC layer, at layer 2, it's sending out all Fs. It's saying, who am I? And based on its source MAC address, the werewolf node is going to say, you are Rocky 1 in this case. Then he goes, okay, I'm Rocky 1. What do I do? And he goes, well, you come here and you grab this kernel image in this initramfs and you boot yourself up, buddy. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That's what the bootp protocol, which became DHCP protocol, is. And he is now booting into that node that we were just in. He's going to, it's like if you want to think of it like this, the node is like a trap door. And let's say somebody was standing on that trap door and it fell. If it comes back up, should that person be standing there anymore, or should they be dumped down in the pit? They should be dead down in the pit, right? Falling some spikes or something. Anyways, the point is, our nodes are like that. We're going to lose that config we just did. But now we're going to rebuild it, and we're going to see what the behavior is. Does it become a new Rocky... Sorry, 002. Doesn't matter. That's not what we call germane to the discussion, right? It doesn't change the discussion any whether this was node 1 or 2. What matters is it still 2 when I rebuild it, or does it become 3? If it becomes 3, that's a problem. If it stays as 2, then that means there's nothing else in between there, and we can go build the rest of the nodes. Does that make sense? Oh, wait, hold on. Mr. Couture said $60K, a decent money as an AWS Cloud prod manager living in a city. Yeah, you passed the butter. That's exactly what you do. No, Mr. Couture, so it depends on the city, I would say. I've never known a manager to make less than like their junior engineer. And if I was a cloud production manager and I had engineers working for me for like, let's say 130 at the minimum, maybe 110 as a minimum, I would expect to make at least that as the manager, but probably more. I'd say most managers probably make about the median. Most like entry level management would probably be like the median of their engineers. That's kind of what my experience has been. That may not be exactly right, but I think Phoenix has the right point. If you're in NYC or San Francisco, you're probably not eating out at that. You're probably living completely something. A little AWS experience setting up EC2 and stuff in Houston, Texas. Yeah, but remember, if you're moving over to a manager, right? So it says cloud. Now, when you say, I gotta back up and make sure I understand this right. You said AWS Cloud Production Manager. When I hear manager, I don't think individual contributor. Like, I don't think IC anymore. Do you guys all know what IC means? That means I'm an individual contributor. I produce a work product artifact that can then be read out of GitHub, or it could be its servers are my work product. Like, I'm an individual contributor. I contribute to the science and the engineering of my company. Managers do not do that. Yeah. Okay. So you will still be in a technical role, maybe even more of like an admin role. Okay. I'd say that's the bare minimum anybody would probably take for that. If you're not in a manager role, you're in maybe more of like an ops role, and ops might start around 60, 70. I remember when I started, when I started in ops, but this was early 2000s, starting in ops, I was making probably about 65, 70-ish with bonus and stuff like that. So that's not bad. Although I think you should probably shift up a little bit nowadays. Betazep followed me. Hey, how's it going? By the way, guys, if you don't know, he joined the server yesterday. He's one of our, me and my brother, who, by the way, is on here, Baraga. We both know him from work. He's the one I may have even shown you guys on stream years ago. I got a knife when he came back from vacation one time. He gave me a big knife. All right, so what are we doing here, guys? Our Rocky node, oh, gosh, I didn't even show you guys at reboot. He went up. Rocky is one of my werewolf nodes, right? So werewolf controls the whole environment. When any node pops up, it gets its configuration from werewolf, and it comes up as a stateless node. It's clean. When I go into Rocky right now, right? If I do RPM QA grep-i for Wazoo, we don't have that tool anymore. We just had built it, but now it's gone, right? Because that, again, it's stateless node. It comes up clean every time. So we had just installed it and put it on this tool. We're playing with this tool. This is a new tool for us in the lab here. And what I'm going to do is I'm about to rerun that install command. I saved the command. Remember, we keep a raw set of notes as engineers. These are quick and dirty notes. I would never show these. Like at work, nobody will ever see these. But you guys can see them because this was our build out last night of this Wazoo tool. And remember, we found these two problems that we could go back to them and say, hey guys, your installer for Rocky 9.4 does not build these directories. We had to build these directories ourselves. And then we had to go set the permissions. So maybe go fix that, right? That's something that they need to fix in their installer because we couldn't get the service to start, remember, if anybody was here last night. Anyway, so we're going to go steal our command. And what I want to do, what does this command do, by the way? Some of you guys aren't maybe as familiar with the Linux side of things, so let's talk about this. It's going to make three variables. There's three variables being made here at the command line. It's doing the Wazoo manager, which is the node that is our Wazoo indexer that we're sending our logs and all this agent stuff to. Again, we're just playing with this, so I'm kind of learning this as we go. We've got the Wazoo agent group, so if I had a specific group that I wanted this node to fall into when it got registered, like prod, or maybe I could have called it home lab or prolog lab, we could have done whatever we wanted here. It would have registered that. And then the agent name is going to be this name, which is Rocky1, which we determined we would just grab by host name because I'm about to run this with Ansible against 20 nodes, well, against the other 18 nodes. And I want to make sure that it pulls each node's name. I don't want it all to be Rocky1. I don't want it all to be Werewolf from last night. This is what we stole from originally, right? And then we also needed to make sure that we had the /opt because that's the NFS mounted drive right in here where we have the agent file. This is the RPM from the agent file, right? Isn't Wazoo Budweiser commercial with the... Yeah, Fisherman, it is. Well, what happened, Fisherman, was the guys convinced me to take a look at this tool. And I was like, all right, I'll play with it. Plus, I asked the other day, like, what do you guys want to see more on stream? Do you guys want me to more hit just the study stuff that we sometimes do? Or do you guys want to see home lab? And I think people... I only heard from one person, but from yesterday, people seem to be kind of more interested in hanging out and watching this stuff. So we got the tool. We got Rocky to install the first time, and we got it to call over here. Now on this new node, right, it's a new Rocky box. He's stateless. He came back up. We're going to rerun this. We're going to rerun this command. Where's it at? Hold on. That's why I kept my commands here. We're going to make those three variables at the command line, and then we're going to run the installer. All right. And then what we hope is a few things. Now because the agent is there, or now because the ID of the Wazoo user is there, let's let this install real quick. We expect a few things to happen. Mr. Couture, I did not develop this dashboard. This is an open source tool called WAZUH. That's the name of the tool right here. And it's kind of funny if we jump into it. This is what the node looks like when we jump into it. I was just messing around with a couple message of the days, right, for banners, and I said, which one do we like more? I don't know which one we like more, so we're just going to leave them both for now. I did not develop this, no. Funky, thanks for stopping by over on the YouTube side. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. If you got questions, ask them. We're just kind of hanging out. Fridays are not super, I don't work super hard on Fridays, guys. I just kind of hang out. And Betazep with the Prime, thanks for that. But also, I need you. I was going to ask you in Discord. We do talks, every Saturday we meet on the Discord. So if you ever have a Saturday free, now it would be 3 p.m. Arizona time, which I think is actually middle of the night for you. So that might not work. But we could move it. We could make it a different time if it would work for you. I'll just make the guys move their times around. Typically, for you guys that don't know, if you haven't been around, for people that come and talk on a weekend to the Linux group, and we always have topic talks about, we've had Fishermen come and talk about AWS stuff. We've had M-Pesa come and talk eBPF and Kubernetes and all these other things. I always give a $50 Amazon gift card or just like a $50, like I'll just send over like Zell, what is it, Zell or whatever that thing is. But the point is, I pay the speakers to come and talk to people because one, I think people like to talk about their career and want to help other people get into it. But also, I think people are intimidated when I say, hey, there's an architect coming to talk to you guys, and they're like, oh, an architect? I'll never be an architect. Yeah, you will. You just gotta go do this stuff. I tell you guys all the time. This is one of the things that I like to tell you guys because it's true. I'm not any smarter than anybody else. Like when I'm in a room full of a bunch of smart engineers, I'm not going to be trying to be number one. I'm just the guy over to the side building stuff, right? I tell you guys this all the time. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. System CTO, status, Wazoo, agent, right? Oh, whoops. We don't need Wazoo, agent, service. Just agent. Okay. Now it's disabled. It came up disabled. So that's the thing we're going to need to remember. System CTL. We can say enabled now Wazoo agent, right? That'll do enable now. Yeah. So you can start it and enable it in one command. That's the command if you guys want. Strictly speaking, if you ever were to see my engineering notes, I always do those commands separate. And you say, why? And I say, well, there's a few reasons, but the main one to me is I want the enable to stand or fall on its own, and I want the start to stand or fall on its own. And you say, what do you mean by that? Well, if we start it and there's a break and it doesn't work, then the engineer will sit there and troubleshoot it right then until it's good, and then they'll go to the enable after that part has been troubleshot and good. If I do it in one command and then somebody doesn't get around to it or doesn't finish it, now that box is dead in the water until, maybe you turn it off and turn it back on. It doesn't come up all the way because there's a service that I just don't want that mess. So I always do those things separate. So, yeah. So, well, BetaZep, we always have that. I mean, that's always like a standing thing for us. And I mean, most of the guys don't even need it, but they, I still just send it to them because it makes them feel good. Oh yeah, we have one of our guys. I haven't told you guys this. One of our guys, Robbie, who's come and talked to you guys a few times about. He's one of the guys who I worked with at Lockheed Martin, and he was the director of engineering for his company. He had about 200 people, and he was the director of engineering. And I just saw in January, I haven't talked to him yet, but I just saw this month it changed over to he's the president now. So he's the president of his company now. So he's I guess the other guy wanted to retire and just handed over the reins to him. So I got to talk to him still, but I'll have him come down. He'll be the first president we've ever had come talk to us. Let's go look at the agent. The agent's running. Let's go over here and check. Is it the same? I hope it registers off the name, and it's still okay. It's still the same one. It says his status is disconnected, so we'll give it a few seconds here because the agent did just start. And then again, guys, we're just playing with a new tool. I've never used this tool before. I've never messed with it to know if it's any good. It seems pretty good. I've seen some pretty cool stuff with it so far. I'm not like blown away by it, but it's a pretty good little tool, and I'm gonna be playing around with it for some of its security stuff. If you guys have never seen this tool, it's got file integrity monitoring, and I showed you guys last night. I changed the Werewolf config, and this thing did find. Look here, if we go to events, it did find that I changed that modification of our Werewolf config last night. So remember, I changed that, and I just added like a comment at the bottom of that file because I was like, let's see if it finds it. It did. It found that there was a file integrity change. So if I had certain nodes that I wanted to trigger, it would do that for me. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Yeah, we're just playing with this tool. We loaded it up in the lab last night and did some build with it, and now we're kind of testing some stuff out with it. We never work hard on a Friday, guys. Friday afternoon's always just us kind of chilling. Let's go look at server management agents. Let's go look at a summary of our agents. Is that one back? That's the question. And is it the same node, or did it register as a different Rocky one? That would be a problem. Node's thinking. Status running. So if we wanted to find some stuff out about this agent, like what's it doing, what's it reading, we could go in here to like, here's its execd. We could do an LSOF on the process ID here, and we can see like, oh, this thing is got these directories open. Is it listening to anything? Are any of these things listening to any ports? We can also look like this. Or we just actually just go look at NTULP and see if there's anything in here running. We got Promtail Linux running. That's always there. It doesn't look like this opens up any ports, so this is just a completely transmit type thing. Yeah, Betazep, thanks for coming by. Yeah, I appreciate it. You're always welcome to kind of hang out with us. Oh, if it's that early, let me think. If it's that early, 3 p.m., yeah, this would be a bad time for you. But maybe a few hours earlier on a Saturday sometime. So yeah, we'll talk about it, and we'll plan it out. But I definitely appreciate you using your Prime here. You're always welcome to hang out. ESM said, if one submitted their project and worksheet, would it be enough criteria to have completed the sysadmin course? ESM, the current sysadmin course is finished, so you guys can save. What I would say is save it until next. We're gonna start it again in March. I was talking to the guys. We're gonna start the project course again in March. So. Yeah, so Raleigh, that's another part of why I did this was I wanted to see what it was doing with the systems, like how much it would take. Also, interestingly enough, they had for every server you add for 90 days of data collection, it wants 3.1 gigs, I believe, of storage space. So I gave it 100 gigs of space, thinking that I would have probably no more than like 30 servers at a time. But now that I think about it, I'll probably be right at about 30. But we'll keep an eye on it, right? This is one of these things we like to test it. This does run Java, so it's pretty high load on the system for the things that I've been kind of keeping an eye on. This worries me a little bit because this has been up long enough that this should be connected back. I would think it would be connected back. I would have checked in. So let's see. Yeah, still not seeing that one. Still not seeing that one. View agent details. That's the node that he thinks he is. There's his compliance. Look at that. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna be able to check his compliance against GDPR, against NIST 800-53, PCI DSS, which is of course payment card industry, and then HIPAA. So I don't know the HIPAA stuff at all, so we can spend a little time playing with it. And also I can set this up for probably remote access for people that want to get in and do it. YouTube said, do I know what day of the week and time the course will be? It'll always be on Saturdays, but that'll always be the kickoff. You guys can do the course all throughout any week. So, Raleigh, that is actually, last night we were watching this thing spike boxes all kinds of crazy. Chris, no, we're not going to probably make a switch over there. We're just kind of using it a little bit. I'm always going to have, this is always going to be my monitoring structure here. But I may add the Wazoo agent and then have Wazoo over here as the storage and presentation to kind of mess with it a little bit, right? That's what we do in the home lab is we mess with stuff. We make sure that we get this stuff. Man, this thing is not... All right. Let's make sure. So firewall D is running. That shouldn't stop anything because it's pushing. Wazoo is there and it's doing its log collection. Looks like it's doing it actively. Looks like everything's running. It's been running for 7 minutes now, so I would think within about 10 minutes it should be checked back in. So we'll say sleep 180, and we'll just let this sit. And when the terminal comes back up, then we're good. Yeah, Raleigh. All of the things are an annoyance. HIPAA, SOX, compliance, all these things. The one I use the most often is DISA Stig, and DISA Stig is pretty good. Supposedly RAM utilization for the agent average 35 meg. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, we can keep an eye on it. Plus, on any of our nodes, these nodes don't have node exporter. The rest of our home lab, some of you guys have been around for this. The rest of our home lab we have, so, we got Ranger check. Where's Ranger? How's Ranger doing? Hold on. Let's check on Ranger Dog. This should come up. pretty easy. This should come up. And then we should have, here's our Prolog nodes. So here's all of our cluster. Ooh, what was spiking here? Jumpo 1 was spiking 2 days ago. I don't know what was going on there. Oh, that was when I rebooted him. Yeah, so we lost all the users. Oh, this was the power. I had a power outage in the home lab the other day. So that was this little block where stuff was missing. Root, storage, and then we've got a security one as well. Our security and connectivity, which shows us how connected everything is and what our uptime is. Where's Ranger? There's Ranger. Guys, there's Ranger downstairs. Look at him. Laying on one of his two beds. That's a dark... Do you know what I pay that guard dog? I pay him 2 meals a day and multiple snacks, all the water, all the backyard he could possibly want. He's even got bunnies in his backyard that he can go chase around, but he's too old to chase them. So, that dog, though, he probably sleeps, if I had to guess, about 23 half hours a day. I mean, he's living the dream, guys. Anyways, all right. Mostly HIPAA is about who can see the data. Yeah, worked at a hospital long ago. You had UMass B-ball player check in via the tunnel and alias. Multiple people looked as meta record. Cost measure. Yeah, Raleigh, I remember the first time I saw something like that happen with HIPAA was the 2008. It was in 2008 they did the elections for and it was McCain. Or was it even before that? No. It was definitely McCain and Obama, right? When they were going head to head, and somebody looked at their records. They looked at McCain and Sarah Palin, and then Obama and I don't remember ever hearing Joe Biden in that. But anyways, somebody looked at their records and it cost them their jobs. Yeah, somebody went and looked up their medical records. Was that a long time before HIPAA? I don't know, but I can tell you for sure. I definitely saw them. I remember them getting fired. It might not have been a HIPAA thing, but for sure those records were tracked. Okay, that's done. But yeah, can I move in? I'll tell you, when me and my son went and got this bed for Ranger, because Ranger's a pretty big dog, right? He's 100 and something pounds, maybe 120 at one point. I think he's a little lighter now because he's getting old. But he, when we first got this bed from at PetSmart, we went down. It was over at so Betazep used to live out here. It was right down Bell, probably about like 60. No, it was. I guess that's like 75th and Bell almost. There's a PetSmart over there, and we went and we put that on the floor and we laid on it, and we were like, oh yeah, we're getting this for Ranger. This was like one of the nicest beds I've ever laid on, ever. Period. And we were like, man, like I tell people, like, if I'm ever in the doghouse with the wife, I'd rather have one of those beds than just about anything else. One of those beds on the floor than just about anything else. Even like laying on a couch or something. Oh look, Ranger's moving around. Look at him. That dog. Oh, it's so hard to stand up. But I'll do it just so I can turn around a little bit and get him more comfortable. Oh, so comfortable. Oh, big stretch. Ranger's so old, guys. He's like, seriously, he's like over 13 now. So he does a lot of this, like smelling the air and walking around. I think he's kind of got like some maybe doggy dementia or something. But anyways, we love him. Man, I feel weird accessing anyone. Yeah, Chris, that's not something. Yeah, that's not normal, right? But that was. I mean, nowadays I couldn't imagine anybody not just leaking anything they found, because people love, hating the other side of whatever politics in America. But back then, yeah, I would have thought that was kind of like, I don't want to say the start of it, but oh look, Ranger's moving to his other bed. He's got 2 beds, and I've got a 3rd bed on the way, and the wife doesn't like when he has more than 2 beds, and I'm like, well, he's an old dog. He's gonna die soon. Like, let's let him have the nicest stuff he can. I make my wife sound like a monster. She babies him more than me. She babies him way more than me. I just give him really nice beds. Ranger, what are you doing? It's like the area he guards gets smaller and smaller as he gets older and older. So that should be one of my tasks. I'll go down and I'll put his angle of the camera to his bed used to always be a little more up on a chair and down. So I'll move that later on here when I get off stream. I got probably another 30 minutes or so until the wife gets home, and then I got to go. Worked at a hospital around 1995. Nice. Oh, yeah, that was before HIPAA for sure. I always forget. I don't know when HIPAA came out. I know when Sarbanes-Oxley came out, But I'm not sure when HIPAA came out. I guess we can go Google it if we wanted to. All right, let's see. Did we hit? By the way, agents environment looks good. Yeah, that was my power outage there, and then that looks good. Okay. Let's go check our. Let's go check our. Where's he at? Wazoo. Oh, he's right here. I didn't have to move any of that. All right. Is the agent back active? That's the question. Or I wonder, yeah. I wonder if every time I rebuild that. So let's go look at the agent configuration. Agent's not active. Registration date was here. Last keep alive was there when he went down. You know, only 6 minutes later. I'm wondering, yeah, there's probably... All right, so let's go look. Let's go see if there's like a forced reactivation. Oh. Reactivation for... see what this guy says. I wonder if sometimes there's so there's an agent key. So we could have a key mismatch, set it to no, then the agent or then the manager will allow registrations even though they already have a valid key. I recommend not modifying this parameter because it could potentially allow massive registrations of agents who had valid password and simply cannot connect to the manager. I wonder if we want to set that. Oh, this is the bongo song, yeah. What's this one called? This one's just called Down Tempo. This came from a... Yeah, this is Down Tempo Serenity. And this comes from our... like my streaming chill catalog that I bought. I bought a bunch of these on... what's it called on... there's just a bunch of different songs on... what's it called? Humble Bundle a few years... Like maybe a year ago for that one. And then that one just... Yeah, it comes up every now and then. Yeah, the bongo song. All right. Where is this? So we do know now that there's something that's happening in the agent where this will not let that new. I was hoping that it was sloppy in a way that it is not sloppy. I was hoping we could just keep re-registering the same agent with a new key every time and it would be good. And that doesn't seem like that's going to be the behavior. So knowing that, the reason, okay, so now I got to figure tail agent log. It's possible. It was var osec logs. That's just tail. Yep, unable to add the name. So that is what we had, what I was thinking it was. So now we know for sure it was, right? Duplicate agent name. So I wonder if there's a way that we could have it probability UID for every client in DB. Yeah. Ployd, that's probably right. There's something stopping that. So let's see if there's a way to deregister agent in Wazoo. I don't know, or deregister I don't want to. I won't want to do this manually. I want to do this via the CLI. I don't want to do it in an interactive CLI either. I want to see if I can like launch it over. All right, so we got to get a token, so we got to check into the server. We know the password, so we can do that. Okay. And then we could delete agents, and then the list would be, in this case, well, the node would have to know its number. Yeah, so we would need to know its ID. The API hit. Oh, disconnected. Hold on. See, this might be a little better because here's the thing. We could just have something that deletes inactive for more than 21 days. No, these will be going down and coming back up almost immediately, so the inactivity won't be a thing. However, let me think how we want to do it. Do we want that to be... So we still have to trigger this, by the way. When the node comes up, we still need to have a service that's going to call this to register the agent. But technically, if we have a way to get rid of a disconnected agent longer than... And this says like 21 days. We could say longer than like 5 minutes. Only problem with that... What if some other one was just not listening? Maybe when a reboot is triggered, the agent uninstall? Possibly. The reason... Here's the thing real quick. The reason I want to catch it on the node coming up as opposed to on the reboot, like when a node goes down, is this. I don't know what can cause... Any number of things in this world, a car crash, a rock falling out of the sky can cause the server to go down. I need the situation to fix when the server comes up. Does that kind of make sense? That's not a bad idea, YouTube, over on the YouTube side. When a reboot triggers, make the node shut down and exit cleanly. But much like Kill-9, we don't know that we're always going to get to cleanly die. Like the other day when my cluster went down because I put a heater in my office. Put a heater in my office, blew the whole circuit breaker for this half of the house. It was kind of funny. So that's why I started rebuilding a bunch of stuff. I found man, I can't believe it. I found a freaking server that I forgot that I had set up. This one here, look, it's not even doing anything. It's absolutely embarrassing, but I had this node just sitting there. He was off, but I had forgotten that I had. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The way in which I lost a server is always in my brain going to be ridiculous. All right, I can do this part. And I can get his token every time. The nodes could, well, I could make a list, and the nodes could all be known by the list. But I don't think that's good as good as, like, can we do? So this is agent stuff, right? Let's see if we can do API node or agent list. See if we can get the API for listing all our agents. We want to sort by IP and name. Can we search? This is fine. Well, before you do this, though, you have to get a token, right? Oh, wait. Actually, hold on. Oh, yeah, we do need a token for this. So we'll still have to do the token authentication first. So, successfully convinced the problem manager team at American Express that a virtual server restarted due to a photon from the... Beta, go to sleep, man. Oh, no, it's Saturday morning tomorrow for you, so you can stay up as late as you want. Yeah, you're allowed to hang out with us as long as you want. You'll find out. This is a pretty good little group, Beta Zep. You'll like this group. They're pretty good. We hang out. We do this stuff. We hang out down in the Discord and do stuff. It's all around pretty good time. I spend a fair amount of time doing this Linux stuff. So I tell people, like, I can't believe people pay me as much as they do to do this stuff. And then I try to show you guys the purpose of our group, for people that don't know, is to get you guys doing this stuff professionally. Like we're all hobbyists. Like, we all do this stuff for fun, but you guys can do this stuff and actually go and have rewarding careers in it. You don't need degrees. The degrees are good, but they don't need to be there. The certs are good. They don't need to be there. You just need to get some confidence that you can do this stuff, right? All right, hold on. So I've got affected items. This will give me a each OS by node name, and then I should be able to pull out of it the ID. Okay. So this will list all of them for me, and I can take that output and I can unroll it with JQ dot. It'll be JQ dot affected items dot affected items dot, and then wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, and then this will be, so it'll be each one. So that's the first one. Oh, I'm missing this. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Group. All right. So it'll be affected items dot group, and then I'll just search through each of their names until I find that name that matches. And then when I find that name that matches, I'll go find his ID, right? So it'll be, you know, in this case, it would be affected underscore items dot group dot default. So it'll be group dot default, and then we'll search, we'll find the node, and then this will be the second node, right? Because wait a minute, what am I missing here? It's just yeah, we'll be able to find it. I'll be able to find it. I'll just have to play with JQ a little bit to get that query to go. And then I wonder if that agent, that token, the token will be different each time. So I'll pull the bearer token each time. I could do that in Ansible. Ansible's a pretty good tool for me to do that because I do that often. Who does 3-digit IDs? Yeah. What? We're never going to have more than, was this a cluster for ants? We're never going to have more than 999, because they started counting at 1. There wasn't a 000, so we can only have 999. That, by the way, for fun fact, that's pretty much smaller. That is a smaller number than my average cluster out in the world. The average, like, high performance compute cluster that I work with, guys, is, I would say the average across all of them is probably about 2.5, so 2.5, thousand. So about 2,500 is probably the average, because the smallest one I work on is 1,260 nodes, right? YouTube said, can you do something in your Werewolf where it removes the agent from the server when I provision the Rocky one? Well, so Rocky 1 can be rebooted at any time. So the behavior of our cluster is, let's say the user behavior of our cluster is, users come in, they get in through my Bastion system to drop into one of the Rocky 1 through 19 nodes. They do their labs, and when they're done, they reboot the system. When they reboot the system, they can just reboot it or they can leave. I need to still set up the thing that just auto reboots them when people log out. But then they go down for 5 minutes and they come up clean. What I'm trying to build now is, in the agent. So it's not really getting, like, the Werewolf cluster, like the Werewolf node doesn't really know anything about the node going down and coming back up, except that he's trying to pull information out of, he's doing a DHCP request and a TFTP for his iPXE. Everything else, like the Werewolf server, is just kind of chilling. He's not really doing anything. So he doesn't have any trigger, I guess. I don't know if you could trigger off a DHCP request. I guess maybe you could, but We'd still be in the same problem, though. I mean, at the end of the day, I need to remove this and bring it back up. I now know that behavior, but now I got to go spend some time to figure out. I think we found how we can list the nodes here, so we know how to list them. We know how to back on the here. We should know how to get. We should be able to. Let's go see. Go back to our listing agents. We've got this part, but this one doesn't give us the part that we want, which is the getting the token, right? Yeah, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. All right, so we'll get all that, and then I'll get that running. I probably do have to get off here soon because the wife's coming home, and we're going to there's a little family party, and I was promised pizza and wings, so obviously I'm going to the family party. They had to trick me to get me out of the house tonight, but because normally, some of you guys know, normally Friday night's me and the wife's date night, but we're gonna go hang out over there, and then we'll come back and hang out and watch a movie or something. Also, I do have some more work to do. Like, we're kind of behind on this cluster build for the government, and we're behind specifically because of a problem with VLANs, and we have to go do stuff. So when you stig a switch, one of the government stig standards is you can't be on the default VLAN. Whatever the default VLAN is for a switch, that can't be the one that all your ports are on. And you go, that seems a little arbitrary because we're not really hiding. We're just moving off of the default. Yep, that's true. You're not really hiding anything. You're just moving off of the default. So that's kind of that's a thing. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be Barrows. Betazep. They always order Barrows. My in-laws. Yeah, I use StigViewer 2.7 Betazep. Yeah, I pull it up sometimes. It's a bit bright for people, but yeah, I use StigViewer. I also have Betazep. You haven't been around much, but if you've never seen this, let me show you guys the best site on planet Earth for learning Linux. Now he's an architect, so he doesn't need to learn Linux like some people do. He's been doing it for a while. But down here we've got stuff that we've built as a group, and specifically, let me show you guys. Let me show you, but also some of this other stuff for other people. In our labs, we've got a bunch of Linux labs, a bunch of Ansible labs for people who just want to get a little better at this stuff. But in the Linux labs, I have a couple of STIG reports that you can go run automatically with their SCC tool. So I show how to run that. So SCC tool is part of the DISA STIG compliance. So there's a Linux security where you run the STIG tool and then you generate it and look at the report. But then, yeah, I also pull the, is it an XCF? I think it's an XCF file that you pull out and then you drop that into StigViewer and then run that. Yeah, I have to do that stuff pretty regularly, doing that kind of stuff. So I kind of got tagged. One of my tags with my company Redline that I'm at is they've tagged me as like kind of the security STIG guy. So I'm doing that a lot, and I mostly remediate things through Ansible, and then just the remediations. I mean, you can find them. There was one that somebody sent me the other day. It's called Ansible Lockdown. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but it's a pretty good automated STIG benchmark and compliance. It's called Ansible Lockdown for you guys that use GitHub. And this one's good. It's you drop down here, and then man, they're pretty solid for remediation. Now I've told you guys, stigging boxes, like putting secure technical implementation guidelines on boxes, sounds great. Sounds like good work, and you're like, oh, that sounds like a good place to get into engineering. Let me tell you guys something. If just think about this for a second. There's 462 stigs for RHEL 9 right now. RHEL 9 and Rocky 9 follows suit. So there's 462 of them. We know what they are, and we know how to apply them via Ansible or Bash. Both. We can go grab the scripts right now and the playbooks, and we can run them, and we can lock a box down to 462. So I want to ask you guys this. If we know how to do that, and if that's that simple to do, and it's so simple, in fact, that your Anaconda installer, when you first build a box, will do it for you. That's how simple it is. Why don't we just do that all the time and have every box come out 100% secure? Why don't we just do that? So before some of you guys answer, the answer is found in something that I often say, and I'm a security guy, right? I got my CISSP, I got my CCSP. I can talk about security all day if we want. The one thing, though, is security is the enemy of productivity. And you say, what do you mean? And you're like, I have been offended. He has offended me as a security engineer. Security is the enemy of productivity. You want to walk into work, but before you get into work, you got to go get your keys to start your car. Well, that's security, because otherwise anybody could just start your car. And you have to go out a door and you have to open a garage. That's all security. And then when you get to work and you forgot your freaking badge, you don't have your badge on, that's security. Now you got to go stand at the security desk and get a little temp badge and look like a dummy. Then you got to get in and you got to plug in and you got to go to your desk, because if you go to any other desk, we've got MACsec on the switch access ports, right? So you can't just plug in anywhere. And you're like, I'll go work over there, and I get on the VLAN. Okay, or I'll get on the wireless, the WAN, right? The WLAN. So you do that, and then it's like, oh, your certificate's out of date. And you're like, oh, what the hell's my certificate out of date for? I just agreed. Okay, so then you agree, you get the new certificate, you download it, you run it. Now you're on. You have to put in your 15-character password. Then you've got to go pull up your little, whatever your RSA viewer, do this stuff. It used to take, like, when I would have to, like, this is one of the reasons as an engineer, and probably as a person in general, I hate picking up and moving anywhere, because it's at least 15 minutes. At least 15 minutes of logging back in. Like, I hate rebooting my servers. Oh, God. I hate rebooting my work node that I'm on and my windows that I have open. I hate having to go back in and check on Ranger again. Like, I hate that stuff. I hate it. So where I'm going with that is security is the enemy of productivity in that sense. There's another sense in which we talk about security is also good, right? We talk about like what allows you to go really fast in your car, and you're like, well, my engine and my transmission and my wheels, and I say your brakes, and you go, no, my brakes only allow me to go slow. And I go, okay, well, I'm going to cut your brakes. How fast are you going to drive your car home? I bet you don't go over about 5 miles an hour. If you don't got good brakes, right? You're pumping on it and it's like shooting stuff down on the street. So your brakes allow you to go fast. Security does allow us to be more productive in the long run, but security in each individual instance of 462 STIGs does break shit. It does slow stuff down. It makes logging in harder. One of the DISA STIG standards is you can't use root keys anywhere. So you say can't use root keys, can't be like Scott here, just jumping out of a node and jumping into a node. Nope, can't do that. Got to go in as a user and sudo up. That's a hassle. That's why I got into Ansible. Actually, I used to work on a federal project in like 2013. And that federal project, you couldn't go as root keys across an environment. I had about 900 nodes at the time. And I found out that there was this little tool, Ansible, that I could do commands, and I could just add this. I could just go like this, right? I could say Ansible CentOS 7. I think it's CentOS 7 in my environment. -shell, -m shell, -a uptime, right? And I could add a -kk like this. And it would ask me, I got a key, so it might not even ask me. It might just go run. But if I didn't have that key, I could go in as a user. And if you don't have a become password to sudo, then you could just use the same password. If you don't have a separate password, it'll use the same one. And then that would go and it would hit all my nodes, and then it would do whatever checks that I wanted it to do. In this case, in my home lab, it's CentOS 7, right? And then if I wanted to like grep, what are my... maybe you've never been in my environment, and you say, what systems, this is like the old stuff. These are all of the different environments that exist as what we call host groups that you can hit in my home lab. Well, this is the home environment outside of the home lab. The home lab's all over here, right? And these, Ansible. This one's a shorter path, right? And then now these are just the examples that were there, and then I just have my servers one. Those are the only ones that are there. Yeah, Ansible's a great tool. I'm a big fan of it. I show people how to use it over here. I even have a little book that I wrote with the group that kind of shows people all these pieces of Ansible. Because I tell you guys, like, Ansible by itself is just like running it's no different really. It's got a little more scaffolding on it than running like a shell script against a bunch of nodes. And I can run a shell script against all my nodes really quick, just like that. It's not hard, right? Right here, I can say for server in backtick sequence 1 to 19, do SSH to Rocky server uptime done. And I might even host name and then do it. Gotta sneeze. And that's cool. That works in our environment. But the thing about that is that there's no scaffolding around that. If this broke on a node or this timed out or this did whatever, it's sequentially going through. Well, I could use Ansible and say Rocky, servers, -m shell, module shell A, and then I can give uptime, right? And this would do something very similar, but there's like more control around this. And this is just an ad hoc command. We're not even getting into playbooks. When you get into playbooks, you have all kinds of things going on with these servers and variables that you can kind of carry around. Like Ansible's kind of got like this little backpack that it carries of all these variables that it'll learn about the server. Ansible is an extremely greedy tool for memory. In fact, I've seen it crash boxes for memory reasons before. So anyways, my point showing you guys all that is there's a lot of stuff that you can kind of do and get involved with. Where were we at? I was showing you guys. Oh, we were going to test out. Well, we'll do that fix on this. I have all the component pieces, and now I've got to put them together. So in my raw nodes, right? I always show you guys that we have our raw nodes over here. So agent to stateless node, this part works, but then we say fixing the agent registration problem. And then the component pieces of that, we're going to go grab the pieces, and it's our steps are going to look something like this, just at a high level. Deregister, find. So deregister. So we got to find, list out all nodes. Find our name in the list. Oh, and find out, list all nodes is A, get token, B, hit API, right? So we got to do those two things, right? And then find our name in the list is, it's going to be some JQ, and then parse that out. So we'll do that a little bit. And then, 3 will be deregister by node ID, right? What's that we want to be technical, right? We got to be a little technical. It's by ID, so it's by ID. And then that'll be, some command. And we know where that command is because here's the list the nodes. It's here, right? Because I'm going to do this later. I got to do this after we go hang out with the family and stuff. Deregister was going to be back here, right? Remove agents in a list. We could just put our one item in a list and drop it that way, or we don't want to do disconnected agents. But the point is, we can go and parse this out later, right? Deregister by some command, and then it should just be for reconnect. And we already have our reconnect up there, which is the part up there. So those are our like high level steps. And I show you guys that. I'll take these notes, by the way, and I'll throw these in the I'll say these are the next problem, right? I'll go throw these up in the Discord under the where do I normally put this stuff? Down in meeting notes, right? So I'll say the next problems to tackle, right? There you go, boom. So there's the next problems to tackle. And one of the things I've told you guys is I have a few things that I consider kind of like my superpowers as like the most Chad thing I can say on a disc or on a Twitch stream. One of my, if I had a superpower, it's this. People always think I know what's going on in a meeting. I'll be in a meeting with like 40 people and somebody will look around and be like, Scott gets it. And I'm like, and everybody's like, yeah, Scott, that guy, he always knows what's going on. I never have any idea what's going on in a meeting, guys. My brain can't focus. I have, it's not good. But the other thing, like one of the things that I've always been pretty good as an engineer, and I think it served me well, is outlining things. And I think that you can get better at outlining by practicing. So I do think that's one of those kind of skills that you can go. ESM Solutions said, if you would set up a home lab from Fresh today, would you use XCP-NG or some other tool? ESM, I would probably go all Proxmox now, just because Proxmox has Terraform support, and I think I could probably have used that for some other things. I have a few little Ansible tools. There's only 2 modules for Ansible that still work with Zen, and they are basically turning a node on and off and deploying a new node. And the deploying a new node, me and a guy named Michael Pessa, who's on our server, he and I, we tore this thing apart trying to apply. I'll just show it to you guys. We tore this thing apart. Oh shoot, I didn't want to leave that one. We'll just come over here. Root Ansible playbooks. Like, let's go to like my deploy. So like the dungeon deploys. If you guys have never seen the dungeons, when we were doing this, there's a lab environment file here, and this deploys the nodes, right? Yeah. Get some sleep, Betazep. I appreciate you coming by. I appreciate you hanging out. I'm sure you'll find things that are fun down in our server. There's all kinds. Once you see how the bot interacts with people down in the server, you'll have fun. Yeah, we'll talk about the presentation too. Absolutely, that'll be good. This right here, guys, this is a little YAML. So this is in YAML, if you can't tell. It's definitely not JSON, right? There's not enough curly brackets. But it's YAML. And we feed into this lab deployer up here, these nodes, right? And we can do it by this. Hey, Rob, how's it going? I didn't get to catch your stream today, Rob, but I saw that you were on. So he's eating pizza. I'm going to eat pizza and wings here in about... Well, probably I got to get off in about 5 or 10 minutes, but I'm going to stick around. Etiquette says that I at least tell you guys what I'm doing. If you're from Rob's stream, by the way, guys, Rob is the reason I still stream. I was probably about a year in, and I was just like, man, my streams are pretty small, and why am I doing this? I'm like, I get a nickel flipped to me like every couple of months from Twitch. Like, why am I even doing this? And I remember Rob was like, he was like my Samwise Gamgee. He's like, don't go quitting on me. He's like, Scott, I need you here. I need you. And I'm like, I need, to keep doing something. So, yeah, Rob's the reason I still stream, guys. I wouldn't have kept streaming. So, but no, I do appreciate Rob coming by. He's been on he's been on Twitch for a long time, and he's kind of been holding it down. I remember when I first got on, like, nobody was teaching Linux. Nobody was doing any Linux. And Rob probably did the most Linux on stream. So I'm not saying nobody did Linux. I'm just saying I didn't really see anybody doing what I was doing, which was I want to like teach you guys how this stuff works, show you guys how it works. Anyways, here's the lab deploy. So now watch this. This is this one tool here. Remember I was saying that this isn't very well supported, the Zen Server Guest module. And look at all these variables I'm passing to it, and then what I'm pushing through, and then I'm looping over all those nodes, and it's just... So the question was, would I do this again the same way with Zen? And the answer is I would probably go and do Proxmox. And then I would go see what modules and stuff for Proxmox exists and all that stuff. Now all he does is complain about That's pretty good, Lopsided Pixel. No, but everybody's welcome to hang out. We're just chilling. We don't work very hard on Fridays around here. I was showing you guys the Discord. I had just dropped my notes. We started to use this tool called Wazoo for fun and right, for fun and profit. And this was my next set of problems for fixing the agentless registration problem, right? And somebody's calling me that I don't know. So what happened was, so we've got an agentless node. We got a stateless cluster. And the Rocky box is one of those nodes in the cluster. There's 19 of them. We're just messing with one. And what we did was we installed an agent on it. And then when the Rocky box goes down and comes back up, he's like a clean server all over again. So we reinstalled the agent and went to Wazoo to see if it would do this part again for us. And it will not. It will not allow you to just keep registering over the top, which is probably good, right? I'm sure there's reason for that. You wouldn't want another node to come up and push a different node off. So that's a valid thing in my mind. You're installing in your home network. Well, Fog, if you need any help with it, let me know down in Discord. I know way more from last night and today than I'd ever kind of probably want to know about this tool. But I could see, I often talk about when we do this stuff on stream, I could see for people that wanted to do like a little consulting business, I could see you finding a company that ran some Linux and going and deploying this with some simple, Ansible playbooks to deploy this to an environment and that kind of stuff. One of our guys, when we were doing the sysadmin course, he put it all up in the Discord as well, but he had a full-on deploy for I think it was Promtail and Node Exporter, and then to have Grafana and as the end piece, and then to have Loki and Prometheus in the middle, and to deploy like a full deployment stack to look at everything. And I told him, I was like, you could go do that as a consultant. Like if you had little companies that just needed somebody to come in and drop in this environment, you could do that. You have all the tools, all the stuff put together. And I think this tool could probably be at least leveraged to some, like if a company didn't have any monitoring and they're like, well, we just want to get some monitoring here, we probably drop something like this in pretty straightforward. I mean, you could add some more when we talk about that stuff. Like if you guys have used ITIL, there's two things we look at: fit for use, fit for warranty. What do we want it to do? Fit for use is, does it check all the boxes? Okay, we want a monitoring service. We want it to do HIPAA compliance. We want it to have an agent on the server. I try to stay away from agents on servers, but okay, we need it. I need, this, and this. Does it do all these things? And if it checks all those boxes, then we can build a proof of concept for it. Good. We've kind of done that now. And then fit for warranty is, how does it work kind of in the field? How does it do on the 365th day in the environment? How does it do under load? How does it work when that 100th user gets, or the agent gets registered to it? That kind of stuff. So there's kind of that. How to deploy Wazoo using Ansible. Nice. Yeah, Uragon. That, honestly, that would be the next thing I would do if I were most people. You guys watched me kind of like fumble through it and build out the steps. But there was a reason I did that. I wanted to learn kind of some of the little proclivities of the server. And I think some of you guys saw it last night if you were around. I fixed two of the problems that they had. They have two problems where their agent doesn't build things, or their installer doesn't build things right, so I fixed it. Connor said there's a major at a large university nearby called Industrial and Systems Engineering. The coursework has almost nothing to do with software, though. Should people specify that they are systems engineer, but mainly for software? Should they call themselves software systems engineers? Connor, I would say my experience has been software engineers tend to call themselves like SWEs. So like I think, isn't that SW? I think, yeah, software engineer. And then, or sometimes people will just call them SEs, software engineers. Yeah. And then me, I tend to call myself a platform engineer because people, but I also call myself like a high performance compute engineer because that makes people understand kind of like my subclasses. Where if you're doing HPC, you're probably big on storage, you're probably big on automation, and probably less focused on security, because in that environment there's not as much patching, although I've had a little bit of patching background as well. So that's what I would kind of tell you is like, I would be called a Linux engineer or a high performance compute engineer or a systems engineer typically. You would not necessarily call me like a SRE or a DevOps guy, although I kind of fit those roles sometimes. You wouldn't call me a software engineer. I don't code professionally. I've never put up a work product that was software based. It was never, software has never been an artifact of mine. I've had like Ansible code of mine, but I don't consider that coding, So hopefully that clears that up. But I mean, I tell people all the time, because I teach networking and I teach security and Linux at a college, right? I teach that at DeVry. And I tell people that, man, like you can get a degree in networking and you have no idea where your career is going to take you. You may be over working at Pixar just doing high performance back end server setups. So what do you know? I mean, you don't know what you're going to be doing. But I tell people, know the basics well. Like, know your Linux, know your networking, know how Linux, because people ask me though, like, how much do I really need to know for networking on my Linux servers? And I'm like, well, every single one of your Linux servers is going to be connected to a network. So I'm not telling you got to spend all week in networking, but I'm going to tell you that if your server doesn't work, you better know how to do like an IP adder or an ifconfig or something like that, and an ETH tool. And you need to have some tools you could pull out of your toolbox. You don't have to be, man, you don't have to be like some deep in the weeds TCP tuning junkie, have read every red book on the subject and stuff. But But can I show you guys the very bare minimum that I would know? I was showing this the other day. This is going to be bright for a second. I apologize for nothing. No, I'm just kidding. If you guys have never seen this is going to be a little bright. But this is the Red Book. And I'm going to link it to you guys. It's a bit dated, but guess what? TCP/IP has not fundamentally, well, IPv4 has not went under fundamental changes in the last 20 years. There have been things added, don't get me wrong. But most of it is pretty much the same. This was from December 2006. This would be the bare minimum that I would tell people to know for systems work right here. It's about 80 pages of this book. Yeah, maybe even a little further. It was 180. Yeah. I would say no down to about 170. You don't have to get into this. Is like starting to write like routing protocols and get down into how your routers work. You don't need to know that on the systems engineering side of things. But the first 170 pages of this book will at least show you how your system boots. There was a BootP and DHCP and how do those work. And then that's going to build into understanding how iPXE works. And then iPXE is going to help you understand how your kernel is called and your initramfs work, right? This would be the minimum right here. If you were just like Scott and I want it for free, I'd tell you there that's the thing. By the way, can I tell you guys something? And this is I joke around about this, but this is 100% true. With my college students, I will have college students in level 3 or 400 college classes, and we'll be doing all Cisco, right? All commands, Cisco CCNA. We'll be setting up NAT and doing all this stuff, and I'll be showing them how to pull out the topology and have it in a different browser. So you've got the topology and you've got what you're doing, and I'll explain to them like you're at a command line. You have to be able to kind of like close your eyes here and visualize what you're building and do it. And I'll have students tell me they hate it, and I'm like, this is a real expensive. Like did any of you guys ever watch Arrested Development? I've made a huge mistake. This is a really expensive effing mistake you've made. You're in your 3rd or your 4th year of college, and you're just now finding out that the work that you're about to do for 20 or 25 years of all this command line stuff, you hate it. I would have preferred to come to hang out in Scott's stream here for 30 minutes and looked at this and been like, I hate this. This is the stupidest thing I've ever looked at. And if that's the case, I'd rather learn that for free on a stream from Twitch or something than to go through that much college where then I just find out that I hate this stuff. Hate doing it. I didn't want to ever look at another command line again. I can't do it. I just want to click next, finish, and be a Windows engineer or Windows admin, right? I'm not hating on anything. I'm just telling you, if you hate this stuff, like I'd rather find out for free that I hate it than in my 3rd or 4th year of college when I'm staring down 25 years or 30 years of a career in that. So anyways, that's my thoughts on that. So that Red Book stuff, really good stuff. IBM has a whole bunch of those. That's not the only one. I haven't seen them publish one recently, but maybe there are some. I think there's a list of all of them too. So if anybody wants to find the list and drop it in the Discord, you can. So, oh wait, what's the wife text to me? Oh, okay. Wife's here, guys. I got to go. I got to go to my little end of stream thing. I appreciate everybody coming by. Let's go raid somebody on the Twitch side of things. YouTube, I don't have any cool raid stuff, unfortunately, but let's go see who we can follow. And let's go raid. All right, a little bit different energy, but we'll raid over to Running Man. We love his streams. I love his streams and stuff, but I appreciate you guys coming by. I will talk to some of you tomorrow down in the Discord. And I will see you guys later. Take care. Yeah, over on the Twitch side, he plays video games and he yells a lot, but he's actually pretty fun. So we'll go raid him. Take care, guys.